Hi, and good afternoon. Welcome to this edition of Community Candor. We are excited to have you here today. We've got a great panel of folks and experts from the community that are going to share some information with us. We're going to be talking about clearing your criminal record and learning all about what expungement is and what that process entails, and how there are resources out there to assist with clearing your criminal record for free. So let's start with who we are really quickly. This session is brought to you by Communities First, Inc., a nonprofit organization working to build healthy, vibrant communities through economic development, affordable housing, and innovative programming since 2010. And we have been offering this community candor as a way to bring information and reach to the community since 2020. My name is Renee Kent. I'm the Director of Special Projects here at Communities First, and I will be one of your moderators for today. And so let's go ahead and do introductions so we can kick off this great discussion and bring you this important information. I'm going to turn it over to Essence Wilson from Communities First. She's going to introduce herself, and she may have some additional comments to add as well.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Essence Wilson. I am co-founder and chief strategy officer at Communities First. And I'm excited about this session because it's something that has come up time and time again for the residents that we serve, for community members, and for individuals that we are working to get into housing. It's one of those topics that people try to shy away from, I think, but we have some dynamic individuals on with us today that are confronting this issue head on and supporting and encouraging and helping community members to address and deal with their criminal records. So thank you all for being here with us. And I'm going to ask Carla if you could introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Carla Blakey, and I also work with Communities First, and I work directly with residents and individuals who are applying for housing. And it is very important, as often they find they can't get a job, or maybe they're scared to apply for jobs and housing because they know they have records and it's not comfortable, criminal records, and it's not comfortable to talk about. So I look forward to hearing the information so I can share with the people I encounter.
And we also have attorney Tiffany Hughes. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, all. I am attorney Tiffany Hughes. I am also with Communities First, Inc. I've been the secretary there for about 10 years. And I'm also a criminal defense attorney in the community, Genesee County. And I do expungement work. And I like it because I just like to see people get a second chance. I just love seeing a client that has had to carry this burden, and then you go to the court and have the proceeding, and then this burden is lifted. So I love this work.
That's great. And thank you for your service to the community and to Communities First. We certainly appreciate you and all of the insights, wisdom, and resources that you bring to our organization, and for being willing to do this work. I'm sure that it's not always easy to hear those stories, but we are certainly glad to have you in that role and to have so many wins that you have been able to achieve. Christina, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here as well. My name is Christina Guirguis. I work for the city of Detroit. The city has a special program called Project Clean Slate that provides expungement services for free to someone who's a city of Detroit resident. Kind of like what Tiffany said, we get great stories once the cases are done of just how impactful getting an expungement can be for the person. And that makes this really rewarding and purposeful and really important work. Myself personally, I've been an attorney for 20 years.
I don't know that there's anything better than having fulfilling work to do and being able to assist people in their time of need. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Renee to get the dialogue started.
All right, thank you, Essence, and thank you all for joining us. Before we jump right in, I do have a couple of more things I want to quickly mention. In the chat, we will be providing information. We've already dropped in the contact information for the attorneys that we have on with us. Their contact information is in there. We will also be taking questions live. So if there are any questions, general questions or specific questions, drop them in the chat. We'll be looking for those and addressing those while we're on live. Additionally, we have a survey, which I believe has also been, it's on the screen there, but it's also been dropped. So please fill that out. In order for us to bring pertinent information to the community that addresses your needs, we need to hear from you. So please fill out the survey. Let us know what information would be helpful to you, what you thought of the session today. And I believe if you fill out the survey, you'll also be put in for a raffle. That can't be too bad around the holidays to win a gift card. So go ahead and put your information in, and let's go ahead and get started. The title of this session is Clearing Your Criminal Record, an Introduction to the Expungement Process. So we hear the word expungement a lot, but what does that actually mean? We know it has something to do with your background, criminal records, convictions, things like that. But what is an expungement? So expungement is a legal process. Oh, did somebody want to jump in? Okay. Is a legal process that seals your criminal record from public view. It protects your privacy, and it allows you to take advantage of job, school, and other opportunities that may have been unavailable because of your arrest and charges showing up in your criminal background check. So we're going to talk about some resources today to assist with removing criminal convictions through what is known as an expungement process. So we've got Tiffany Hughes, attorney, and an attorney, Christina from Project Clean Slate from the city of Detroit. We're very excited to learn more about what services are available and who qualifies for these services. So Tiffany, you want to start us off?
Yes, here we have a program through Michigan Works that actually helps with step-by-step process with the expungement process. They're here in Genesee County, and the people that qualify is there are certain felonies and misdemeanors that cannot be expunged, like whatsoever. The legislation did change as far as the number of felonies that you can get even automatic now by application and automatic and by application, but still there are some that do not qualify. So if it's a felony and you only want to get one done, one felony, it's 5 years after any incarceration, payment of fines, restitution.
Okay, we're definitely going to dig into that a little bit more. There's a lot of information there, and we want to make sure that people understand how their situation fits within those requirements. And so, Christina, can you talk a little bit about what services are available in Detroit and who qualifies for those?
Yeah, so for Project Clean Slate for the city of Detroit, we do the whole process for the person as a free city service. So that goes from pulling someone's iChat, which I know we'll talk about in a little bit, till the end. We provide a free attorney for them at the court hearing, which is the last process or part of the process. To qualify for this free service, the only requirement is that the person is a current city of Detroit resident. There's no income requirement. There's no income eligibility. Literally, the only requirement is that you are a current city of Detroit resident and the way that someone would register for that and apply to our services. It's all done online. And I think this will be dropped in the chat. It's at detroitmi.gov/PCS for Project Clean Slate.
I'd like to jump in and just add additionally with the Michigan Works grant here in Genesee County. They cover 6 counties. I can't name them offhand, but I know it's Genesee County, Bay City, Livingston. They cover a multitude of counties. So you can be a resident of either of those counties and you can get help with the entire process.
And Tiffany, are there income requirements for that?
No. You just your only requirement for that is just you have a conviction that you want expunged.
Yeah, and I will also add that many of the Michigan Works offices throughout the state do offer, the same or similar type of programs. So I know Oakland County has it. And so it would be worth it to look at the Michigan Works for your county to see, what they are offering. Tiffany, are there any fees associated, actually for both of you, are there any fees associated with the program for the participants?
From my understanding with Michigan Works, I don't believe there is any fee. Probably like the biggest thing would probably be the application fee, but I even believe that there's help with that.
And for Project Clean Slate, the city pays for everything. So that includes the ordering the records, the application fee. So it's completely free. There is no charge to the individual.
And when we think about the implications of having that criminal record, I think it's a $50 application fee in Genesee County, and I believe it's $10 for records. So we're thinking $60, and they're willing to waive it depending upon the person's situation. That is, huge. And then with Project Clean Slate, if all of those fees are being covered, there's no reason why there aren't people beating down the doors to get things resolved and get their expungements taken care of.
So the $50 application fee is just if you're looking to get it in the state of Michigan. That's just a part of the application process. It's $50. But yeah.
And so when we talk about qualifications, I did hear that people ultimately just need to either call or sign up online, and that's how they get started. Do they need to have any information together? Do they need to know what's on their record? What do they need basically to get started?
Basically, if you reach out with Michigan Works, somebody will contact you because some people, they just know something is holding them back, but it may be old, so they're not sure. But Michigan Works will be able to pull the iChat and find out where you clear up anything, or just be able to see what convictions are holding them back.
That's great. So it sounds like it's a very easy process. You just call, you sign up online, and the folks will let you know how long the process takes, and pull your information. And if there are any fees, it sounds like those can get waived. So it doesn't sound like there are really any barriers for anybody to utilize this service. Go ahead, Essence. I'll let you jump into the next section.
I did have a follow-up question. Is this only for Michigan felonies and misdemeanors, or does it cover any other state?
As far as I know, because of the requirements, I only know it's in Michigan.
And that's the same for Project Clean Slate. That's a good question, though, Essence, because I was going to bring this up. Someone says, well, someone's a City of Detroit resident, but they have a conviction, say, in Troy. So we do convictions and expungements all over the state. The only requirement is that the person's a City of Detroit resident. I had a hearing one time in the UP for a City of Detroit resident. So, but like Tiffany said, it's only for Michigan convictions. And something additional on that, because we get questions about this, is unfortunately at this time, there's no way to get a federal conviction expunged. Those are a little bit rarer, but if someone has a federal conviction, even if it was out of Michigan, there's currently no law. It's pending in Congress and the House of Representatives, but there's currently no law that allows you to expunge a federal conviction.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those come across my desk, and it's heartbreaking because, a couple of them, they really have turned their life around and, own businesses and just doing better, and that they're stuck. I mean, I tried to research something, and it was like you have to do a pardon, and that's a completely different process.
That's a really helpful and important distinction that people definitely should know. So let's just say I got my iChat record, and does it really matter if I have arrest records, warrants, misdemeanors, and felonies? Like, is it really worth the effort to pursue this process?
It really is, because again, you have your arrest record. Again, some things you may not even know about. There was one where somebody was using his name and it showed up on his, and they're applying for jobs and stuff, but they didn't do this, so they have to go through that whole process. So an iChat is worth it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And just to add as well, that iChat, which we keep talking about, I always forget the acronym, so I wrote it down. It's Internet Criminal History Access Tool. So that's why we say iChat, but it really is helpful to get it pulled. Now, this is another thing that we save the individual money on. Anyone can go online and get it pulled, but there's a $10 fee for each pull. So we do that for the person for free. And it's a really good summary of every conviction you have. And like Tiffany said, some people don't even realize that some things are convictions. They say, well, I just went to court. I thought it was a ticket, but it's actually a misdemeanor conviction, say not to have a license. That's actually considered a criminal conviction, and you'll see it on the iChat. And another thing about the iChat as well, some of the iChats are incomplete. It's something called an open segment. And you'll pull it and there'll be something not filled in. And what happened is, say you got arrested 15 years ago, the police put that in, but they never told the Michigan State Police, who they are the ones that house the iChat. They never said, well, we arrested this person, but there were never any charges. That's the responsibility of the police department. Different police departments are better at it than others, but you have to really update your iChat, or you're not eligible for automatic expungements. You're not eligible for really any expungements if you have what's called an open segment on your iChat. We at Project Clean Slate, that's so important to get your iChat updated that we have a staff member that's all they do is update iChats. So really, the first thing to do is to pull an iChat, see what's on your history, and see if something needs to be updated. If you're doing it on your own, you see, well, yeah, I got arrested, in Highland Park back in 1984, but nothing ever came of it. You actually have to go to that arresting agency. They have someone on staff that does that, but it's really important, even though it's old, because it's still showing up on your record.
That's a really good point. I know that for our organization, we do iChats for volunteers. And we have had a couple of incidences where we do the iChat and it doesn't come back clear. And it was, in at least one of those cases that I can recall, something that the person was not aware of. And they had a family member with a very similar name, and it showed up on theirs. And so it was also an opportunity through that for them to get that, cleared up and get that addressed. But that could have been the thing that was, maybe stopping them from an employment opportunity or something like that. So it's definitely really important to know what's on your record. And if you have suspicions that there might be something, to definitely go through this process. And so what is the process for correction if there is incorrect information?
So you want to go to like your clerk's office of the county that has it incorrect. I've also found where people like they have like it's 3 different sections on an iChat. And so they'll have like the charge, what happened, or if there is like a warrant. Some people may have had warrants that they didn't know about on an iChat. So it's all starts with going and contacting the clerk's office in the county that it happened in.
And I would just add to that, if it's a case that you never went to court on, so kind of going back to the fact where maybe you got pulled over, they took you in, but like nothing ever happened with the case. Instead of going to the court or the clerk, you should actually go to that, excuse me, that arresting agency. And then if it's a situation where it's not you, like which unfortunately happens sometimes, like that person, someone used your name or it's just not you on the iChat, the last page of the iChat when you get one online is actually instructions. And there's something called a records challenge, and it gives step-by-step instructions of how to challenge that record with MSP. It even tells you where to mail it. The only thing additional to do, and again, this is in the specific situation where you're saying that's just not me, is that you need a set of fingerprints to send in with that records challenge. But when you print out the iChat, again, you can get that online at Michigan State Police site. There's step-by-step directions on the last page how to challenge a conviction.
No. So it sounds like a simple process, but it may also be overwhelming for somebody who has to do that on their own. And so if there is a situation like that, is that something that Project Clean Slate can assist with, getting fingerprints and through that process, or through you, Tiffany Hughes?
So that's something I can do that. They can hire me to do that. I don't know like the extent of Michigan Works, their program, but from my understanding, is just strictly expungement. I have done a records challenge in the past.
And we do that as part of our services, both updating the iChat, and then we look at the records challenge and we either advise the client or we do it ourselves. But we definitely have staff. Like I said, we have one staff person that just works on iChats. So that is part of our services, again, for City of Detroit residents.
Thank you. And Essence, I think you were going to jump in with something.
Well, no, I was going to say, I think there's a lot of confusion for some people about when there's an automatic expungement scenario and when they actually have to do something and, go to either Michigan Works, hire an attorney, or Project Clean Slate. So could you maybe give some thoughts around that and what the difference between those two processes are and, what can be automatically expunged?
So, I guess I'll start. Automatic expungements are like, so you'd have to do an application if it's an assaultive crime. Like, so if you have felonious assault, domestic violence, anything with assault in it as the crime, it cannot automatically be expunged. You would have to do that by application. Non-serious misdemeanors can be automatically expunged, but it's after a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Certain ones that I've seen, like I just had a client, we were in the process of getting his expungement, but it got automatically expunged. It was I want to say it was an old weapons offense. I want to say it was a CCW, but he was able to automatically get it expunged this year.
Yeah, automatic expungement just started this year in April. And what Tiffany said, those definitely don't apply. So if you have an assaultive offense, that's not eligible. If you have a drunk driving, that's not eligible. If you have a felony that has to do for theft or dishonesty, that's not eligible. If you have a crime that has a penalty of over 10 years, not meaning that you went to prison for 10 years, but just that the penalty was. So selling narcotics, uttering and publishing, those aren't eligible. And so what the Michigan State Police did the day that automatic went into effect, which was April 11th of this year, they literally ran everyone's iChat through the search engine, and they estimated that 1 million convictions came off automatically in the state of Michigan, which is huge. 1 million convictions came off automatically. No one was notified. No one got a letter saying, oh, congrats, your CCW came off. But what would happen is when you pull an iChat now, if it was automatically expunged, it won't be there anymore. So that's really the only way to know what came off. There was no sort of notification by MSP or the courts. You'll just run your iChat and you'll see it's not there anymore. And because people become eligible at different times, MSP now runs everyone's liens through their search engine or through their rules engine once a month. So it gets updated once a month because there could be someone who's eligible just based on dates and everything this month for automatic, but they weren't last month. So if you want to know if something came off automatically, again, what Tiffany listed, those aren't eligible. So those will never come off automatically. You'll have to go to court on those. But you can check your iChat.
And Christina or Tiffany, where can somebody go to find out what is eligible if they wanted to, just do their own research?
So they can look on, just type in offenses eligible for expungement in Michigan, and it's like a lot of it will pop up. I see like on michigan.gov. Once you type that in, it goes and it'll show what's eligible for expungement and what's not.
Thank you. And I just want to mention for those that are watching this live, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll share that information with our speakers and get those questions answered.
And I just wanted to acknowledge that there are those automatic expungements that are taking place, and people may or may not be aware. So I just want to encourage people who may have, criminal records to check and see and to know, so that they aren't, operating under the assumption that something is still showing up on their record, and therefore they're not pursuing, housing opportunities or jobs or other things because they assume that those things are still there. So it's definitely something worth investing a bit of time and potentially the $10, right, to see what's there, so that that a person is not being held back as a result of something that may not even be on their record anymore. And if it is, it's an opportunity to know when it would be automatically expunged, and also an opportunity to engage with services to support where necessary.
What I also find is too, like, what I did an expungement fair a couple years ago, and some of them, they think like, okay, when they say offense, like they having them distinguish between like an offense that happened 20 years ago and a 20-year offense. So, I had a client, her crime happened over 20 years ago, but she thought because she had a 20-year offense that she couldn't get it expunged. So just looking at those just little nuances.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't think we can emphasize that enough. Oftentimes we will determine whether or not we're eligible for a program based on what we think or what someone said, versus just reaching out to the program and trying, saying, look, this is my situation. What can you do for me? and that's the best way to, see what actually qualifies, right? So maybe we can jump into if there's a limit. So if you have, maybe 2 felonies and 6 misdemeanors, um, can you get them all expunged if they qualify, or is there a limit to what can be expunged at one time?
So they have with this new expungement law, so they have by application, you can get up to 3, but it can't be more than 2 assaultive crimes. They also have what is called a one bad day, where multiple felony convictions happen in one day, but it can't be a crime that is over 10 years. It can't involve a weapon, and it can't be a 10-year offense. So there are just little nuances to it. I love the expansion of this, but yeah, there are some that there is a limit to some with misdemeanors by application. There is no limit, but with the automatic expungement, there is a limit.
Yeah, and I always tell people, like, the expungement law in Michigan has drastically changed.
Oh yeah.
When I first started, you could literally only have one offense total, just one offense to get that expunged. Then it changed to 2 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. And just to reiterate what Tiffany said, currently in the state of Michigan, and there's exceptions and like stuff that's not eligible, but the general rule is that you can have up to 3 felonies and an unlimited amount of misdemeanors. So 3 felonies and an unlimited amount of misdemeanors. I see some people are asking, like, well, what's eligible for automatic that wasn't eligible with petition? And petition just means that you have to go to court. It's the same for the most part. The crimes are the same. Automatic just means that you literally don't have to do anything. Like you don't have to fill out an application. You don't have to go to court. It just is taken off your record automatically without you even knowing, really. So it's not that different crimes are now eligible automatically. No, it's just that the legislature determined that there's some crimes that you won't have to go to court on, that after a certain number of years pass, and it depends on what the crime is, they're just going to come off automatically without you doing anything.
Like, yes. So like, for instance, in the past, our expungement statute was so very strict that if you had too many driving while license suspended, you could not get an expungement. That would keep a lot of people from getting an expungement. Now that's automatically expunged after a certain amount of time, but it's an automatic expungable offense, where if you had 1 driving while license suspended and you had a felony in the past, that was it. You could not get an expungement.
And so there's another question about whether or not the pursuit of expungement is confidential. So if somebody were to have an outstanding warrant and engaged in expungement services, would the police be notified?
So you can't have an outstanding warrant and do the expungement. That warrant has to be cleared up, like whether the case is dismissed or it resulted in a conviction. But if you have an outstanding warrant, you cannot have an expungement.
And what if somebody doesn't know whether or not they have a warrant, and so they're hesitant about signing up for this program because they think if they do have a warrant, someone will be notified. They're just fearful of the process. What would you say?
This would be where they would pull their iChat, or if, like, I would say, or check in with the county where they have the warrant at. If they believe they have a warrant, I wouldn't advise going in there without an attorney. But you can call the court clerk of the county and ask them if you do in fact have a warrant, then take the steps from there to address it.
Yeah, and I would say that what Tiffany said, when you pull the iChat, that's going to show that you have like an open case. And if you would like to pursue expungement on any of your cases, you have to get that cleared up. So that's just a decision you would have to make. The pulling of the iChat, if people are worried about that, that's never going to trigger anything because it could be done by a good amount of people. So they shouldn't be worried about pulling an iChat.
Yes. And also, if you believe you have a warrant, just because you call into the court clerk, they're not going to just send the police over to your house and arrest you. No. Again, they'll tell you, okay, you have a warrant and the steps you can take. Like they'll let you know when arraignments are, and you can even know like which judge is on duty that day. It's not like they're just going to come and arrest you.
And what I'm hearing is, although it may be a scary moment, but if someone suspects that they, may have a warrant, or there may be some things that are unaddressed, that, it's something that they have to make a decision about, but it doesn't go away. And I think, the fear of kind of having that hanging over your head would be a burden, and may be worth addressing it. So obviously we can't give anybody advice because it may, blanket statements, but, there are ways to get the information that you would need to make an informed decision about what the next steps would be.
So, Essence, I'm going to jump in with this question. It's a little off target, but I think it's relevant. In going through this process, oftentimes individuals have, outstanding court fees, tickets, back child support. There are a number of things that people are facing in the community. And while the conversation today is primarily focused on expungement, I would guess that some of those situations have come across your path, and you have to refer individuals to other resources. And so in thinking of that, what are some of the other resources that you tend to refer folks to when dealing with, these issues that tend to come up a lot?
I'm not really aware of ones that just help pay court fees. There may be some community resources for that, but I typically refer, if they're having that trouble for as far as locating, I either refer them to G Card down here in Genesee County, or I will refer to Legal Services of Eastern Michigan. They would have like just a better idea, better gauge of the resources that may be of assistance for them.
Yeah, and that's something that we definitely deal with. Courts don't forget about the money that are owed to them. I'm telling you, like some courts, it will be a case from 1991. They're like, they owe $75, and they still know about that $75. Unfortunately, there is no agency or service that pays. It's a funding issue. I would love it if there was someone we could refer them to that would help them with court costs and fees. But there isn't. I will say this, with automatic expungement, going back to that really quick, one thing that's great about it that the courts don't love is that when MSP runs that, they don't have access to say, well, this driving while license is suspended from 2004, the person owes $75 on. So those are coming off automatically, despite the fact, as long as they're closed, despite the fact that the person owes money. So that's like another benefit of automatic expungement. And there actually was a memo basically sent from the SCAO, the Supreme Court, saying to courts, you can't reopen a case that's been automatically expunged just because they owed you money, as long as it wasn't restitution. So as long as it's not money owed to a victim, say there was a victim on the case, But yeah, so automatic cases are coming off even if there were just court costs and fees due.
So when those cases are expunged, do the fees still remain?
No, because that's a really good question, and that was kind of the point of this memo that was generated. What basically the administration of the Supreme Court, Michigan Supreme Court, was saying was there is no case anymore. So you should stop collecting fees if you are, and you can't because there's a slight chance that if something's automatically expunged and the court thinks it shouldn't have, they can reopen it. We haven't seen that yet since the implementation in April, but no, yeah. So the fees would be basically disappeared.
That's great. So we covered a lot of information, and we didn't even go into the details, because it gets, I think when you talk about specific cases, it would get a little bit much to go into every single conviction and every single, whether you're talking about felonies or misdemeanors, what qualifies for this, what doesn't qualify for that, how many years for this. But what we do know is that individuals that are interested can reach out, and we've provided the links in the chat. They can submit their information and see exactly what they qualify for. And then we also provided some links in the chat if people want to do some individual research as well. But what I'd like to talk about now is there are a number of individuals that we have worked with at Communities First, that you, Tiffany and Christina, have worked with in the community, who have went through the process. And I'd love to take some time to talk about what that experience is like, how long it takes, and then some of the impacts from folks that you're working with. So I don't know, Essence, is this a good time for you to jump in and share?
I think the thing that I just wanted to share really is, when people are, dealing with their criminal records, we encounter a lot of folks that, kind of shy away from it and don't confront it. And, kind of back to my previous point, it kind of just lingers there. So that shows up in a lot of ways. We've had individuals who were living in our housing and they have a significant other. And, there's a point where we have to have that person added to the lease because they can't live there without being on the lease. And, then we can't find the person, or they disappear in the application process or what have you. And sometimes that is because of, a criminal record that they either have or they think that they have. And so, that's one of the reasons why we encourage people to, if you know that there's something there, figure out what it is and figure out what you need to do to get it addressed. And then, when we're helping people find employment opportunities, we've had to find some employers who will accept applications from people with challenging backgrounds. So I think there's just, a lot of ways that people may know and other ways that people don't know where they can be impacted or affected by their criminal record. So, that's why we wanted to do this session and make sure that people had the information necessary to address it. I would be curious from both Tiffany and Christina, if you could share some examples of where you've seen success. We know that the process exists and that it works, but sometimes it's encouraging to hear someone's, anonymous story.
Yeah, I did this expungement process. The young man, he had 3 prior drug convictions. And, with the drug convictions, some of them are up to 20 years. So it's like a 20-year, it's a life 20-year, and then like the 4-year one. depending on what the charge is. And he had 1 4-year, no, 2 4-years and a 20-year. And he went through this process. At first, it was a bit challenging. It was because we had to postpone the court dates because like just stuff from the AG's office hadn't come back. And the pressure was on even more because now the media was here. And we went through the process. He's been carrying this since he caught these charges when he was like 19 or 20. And at the point that we were doing the expungement process, he was 40 now. 40. And he's carried this with him all this time. And so we went there, the media's here, the news is here. I'm like, oh no, the news. And so to see him, the judge granted his expungement, and just to see like the weight lifted off of his shoulders, he was even crying to see him get this second chance. Like it was just a beautiful experience, even though it was tough and we had to go through a process. I enjoyed just seeing him get his second chance and him saying like with the news media, showing and being able to see his story.
Yeah, and I think this is honestly the best part of my job, just seeing the impact that expungements have on people. Kind of going back to what you said, Essence, about people shying away from their criminal record. What I hear a lot is people telling me, I'm not that person anymore. And so they kind of want to leave that like in the past, but it's still affecting the person they are now. And I know court is usually no one wants to go to court. It's not a happy thing. A lot of people have a negative experience with the criminal justice system. But I will say our hearings for court hearings are enjoyable. And even the judges are happy that we're there, because basically it's you telling the judge, you have to show the judge, this is part of the law, what have you been doing the last 20 years? And people are really like proud to share that I've been doing this, this, and this. And I'll tell you, judges love those stories. And for the first time, instead of a judge sentencing you, scolding you, judges are congratulating you. And it's like kind of a rite of passage, like putting that all on the record, having a judge hear it, having a judge acknowledge it and saying, you are not that person anymore. This is coming off your record. Congratulations for, what you've accomplished and getting past this. And just besides the fact for better job opportunities, that's what people also cite. I had a very nice older gentleman who could not be the guardian and conservator for his adult child who was disabled because of a conviction. And I, as an attorney, would have never thought of that. And he said, I really need to be his guardian and conservator. There's no one else. So that was super important. We had a client who lived downtown who kept looking with his kids across the border at Canada, but couldn't go to Canada. And one of the first things he did when he got it off his record, they went as a family and crossed the border, and it was just a little thing, but to him, it was a really big thing. So besides job opportunities, federal housing opportunities, you don't really realize the little things that are affected by convictions.
That's a really, really, really good point. And I know volunteering in my kid's school to literally walk 2 blocks as a chaperone from the school to they went to the fire station, and I had to go through and get an iChat. So I could only imagine a parent who couldn't participate in that way with their child at school. So it's not always the kind of like bigger things of life of, housing, employment, those sort of things. Sometimes it really is, being able to care for a loved one, and things that you might not otherwise think of. So it's a really important process, and I hope that people engage with it. I just wanted to share the stats that we had on Project Clean Slate, because I think there's a lot to be proud of. So there have been 4,910 expungements since 2017. 90% of the participants sought better employment opportunities, resulting in a 23% increase in wages a year after the program, and 82% removal of stigma. That's huge, 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 huge. So the work that you're doing, Christina, and the work that you're doing, Tiffany, every single day is extremely important. It's life changing, and it's definitely something to be proud of. So thank you for the work that you do.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. We talked about a lot of information today. And before I do the wrap up, I just want to open the floor if there are any last comments that you, Tiffany, Christina, Carla, or Essence want to share with the audience before we do the wrap up.
I'd just like to say thank you for your time, and especially for mentioning things like being a parent volunteer or crossing the border, and just the non-obvious things, and then explaining the whole process. Because as a supportive services person, sometimes I get the questions, and now I can feel more comfortable to steer them to a program like the programs you've talked about to help change and improve their lives. So thank you.
And most of all, we get the stigma, but this is like, I can only understand so much having to carry this throughout your life. Like, this is just like taking a chance on yourself. Like, if this is available to you, take that chance. If you want to change your life, this is life changing.
Yeah, and I would reiterate that. And if you are a Detroit resident or you know a Detroit resident, have them. It literally is a 5-minute application process online at that detroitmi.gov/PCS. Again, I think that was put in the chat because I know people think, oh, application, it's going to take it is worth the 5 minutes. It's a free service. You can hire an attorney like Tiffany, to do it. But for City of Detroit residents, this saves a lot of money. And it's a great program, and really it's worth the 5-minute registration.
Thank you all for that. Expungement is an investment in your future because it erases a part of your past that no longer matches who you are and opens up the door to a number of opportunities. So we thank our guests today for sharing this information about these free resources. And even if they're not free, there are ways to get those fees waived. We appreciate them highlighting the fact that this is a very confidential process. And I'll just also highlight this process focuses on Michigan-only convictions. But again, it's free, it's easy to access, and it's confidential, and you're treated with the dignity and respect that you deserve while going through this to clear your history that no longer reflects who you are today. So please check the comment and chat section. We've got information in there, and you can access our panelists that were here today. Their contact information is in there. Their organization contact information is in there. We've got some additional resources in there if you want to do your own research. And we also have a survey that we put in there because we'd like to hear from you. We'd like to get your feedback as we continue to come to the community with these workshops and providing information and resources. We'll look forward to catching you on the next Community Candor session. Have a great day and take care.